Thank you, Jumana. Your Majesties, Your Royal Highnesses, Excellencies, dear laureates and friends of the Prince Claus Fund. It is, as every year, a great pleasure to welcome you all at this award ceremony. Sorry, it is really in my eyes. Someone, yes, it's a bit better. Sorry. I'd like to address a special word of welcome, of course, to our laureates who are all present here, and also, first and foremost, to our royal family, of course. Welcome to your own palace, which is open every year to the celebration of art and culture, to the celebration of people's courage to express the words and ideas that the world dearly needs to hear, always needs to hear, and even more so now, I think. A few years ago, I started my short speech of welcome by saying that we are experiencing difficult and confusing times. From an historian's point of view, that may have been true, but it seems that since then, confusion has become almost normal. All kinds of dangers have risen and overshadow the image of the 90s, of the last century, as a sort of Belle Époque, a period of time in which optimism reigned and people thought that history, with all its struggle, had come to an end. Now, on the contrary, we are not sure at all about the direction of history and what it will mean for the lives of our children and grandchildren. There is ample reason to believe that the world is not heading towards the better place that seemed to be in our grasp not so long ago. Maybe you are familiar with the English expression, "May you live in interesting times." What most people don't know is that this expression is originally an old Chinese curse. Anyway, we will have to deal with it. So, as every year, we have come together here and are pleased to see each other again. We see reflected in each other a shared vision, the ambition to work on this world with the means and talents we have. But as honest and rational people, we come to the conclusion that the world is not particularly improving in the area of human rights, the possibility of people to develop themselves, not to mention the enormous international tensions that are increasing everywhere. People sense a totally different atmosphere and respond by closing borders, closing their eyes, closing themselves up in their group, their class, their race, their religion, their prejudices, instead of reaching out to the unknown, the perspective of the other that is, in the end, so close. Milan Kundera wrote the influential novel The Unbearable Lightness of Being, which chronicles the fragile nature of individual's fate, stating that a single lifetime is insignificant in the scope of Nietzsche's concept of eternal return. In contrast, we now seem to be living the heaviness of being. History seems extremely present and is even more unbearable, I would say. The only way to overcome this feeling, to change this direction, and to liberate ourselves from this destructive mood that can develop into a self-fulfilling prophecy is talk to each other, to open our eyes to different perspectives, and please, to inject some humor, some self-irony into the discussion. In my opinion, that's always the most effective weapon against all the heaviness that we inflict on ourselves and the dangers we create through our imagination. In a few weeks' time, President Obama will leave his post. I remember the joy with which we welcomed him 8 years ago. People may destroy some of his accomplishments, but they will never destroy the spirit he brought to the world that was essentially humorous, creative, connecting, determined, and right. To me, these characteristics form the essence of a civilized and charismatic leader, but also of an artist that reaches out and makes a difference. And the same goes for our fund that tries to be light and heavy at the same time. Conscious of our task that is not easy these days, but knowing that we can only touch people through art, through self-irony, with the openness that creates openness. It's my pleasure to thank our staff and our ever-growing network for their belief in our work and their own, and in the ambition we all share. We are, of course, grateful for the support that allows us to do this work, from the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Dutch Postcode Lottery, our sponsors and torchbearers, and of course our many advisors. I would also like to thank this year's jury, headed by Emile Fallot, who, again, did a formidable job, the result of which we will see later on during this ceremony. This year, we are celebrating our 20th birthday, and as I said, we are in difficult times. But this can only mean that we must continue working and reinvent ourselves in order to respond to the challenges of today. And we will do this always with Prince Claus's conviction in mind that only through culture and an open mind we can overcome differences and create lightness of being that is not only bearable, but that bears in itself a sense for the past and for a future at the same time. We will do it with this conviction and a little bit of self-irony, as exemplified by President Obama and Prince Claus. I wish you all an inspiring afternoon.